All right, so today we're going deep on some pretty wild accusations, this time against comedian Druski and music mogul Diddy's caught in the crossfire, too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we're going to break down this YouTube video. It's by Jamari. It's called Druski Allegations.
Okay.
And basically, it all goes back to this lawsuit against Diddy that's taken a very strange turn.
Interesting.
Yeah, bringing in Druski and even NFL star Odell Beckham Jr.
Okay, so right off the bat, it sounds like we got like a whole lot of drama and some big names involved.
It's a lot, yeah. And this case touches on so many things, like, you know, how we deal with information online, the power dynamics, and like Hollywood and the legal system.
Oh yeah, that's a recipe for a huge mess.
Right.
Okay, so let's break it down for our listener. What are the actual accusations here?
So basically, the lawsuit claims that back in 2018, Druski was involved in this really strange incident at Diddy's place, and it involves like a slip and slide baby oil.
Slip and slide?
Yeah, like a slip and slide, tons of baby oil, and it gets pretty graphic from there.
Oh, wow. Okay, so we're dealing with some serious allegations here.
Yeah, and the lawsuit uses the term amended complaint.
Amended complaint.
Yeah, meaning like the initial lawsuit was like formally changed to include these new accusations against Druski and OBJ.
I see. So they're adding these guys to the mix later on.
Exactly. But here's the thing. This alleged incident happened back in 2018. Way before Druski was like a household name. He was, you know, as he says, broke and living with my mom.
Right, like just starting out.
Exactly. And he uses that to deny everything, saying there's no way he was connected enough back then or, you know, financially stable enough to be hanging with Diddy.
It's a pretty solid defense, though, right? I mean, if you think about it.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's the same kind of defense Jay-Z used when he faced similar accusations from the same lawyer.
Oh, wow.
Those accusations were eventually dropped. And there's even this weird detail about like a supposed setup involving a man named Shane who claimed to have cancer and ALS.
So like some seriously shady stuff potentially going on here.
Right. It sounds like a movie plot almost.
It does make you wonder about the motivations behind some of these lawsuits, for sure.
Absolutely. And get this, Druski actually did work with Diddy later on.
Oh, really?
Yeah. In 2021, his show Sneaking In with Druski aired on Revolt, which is Diddy's media network.
So that does make things a little more complicated.
Right. Does it lend some weight to the lawsuit's claims, or is it just a coincidence?
That's a good question. I mean, it definitely connects them, but, you know, it doesn't automatically prove anything.
True. And we got to remember, Druski and OBJ were already friends, too. Like, Druski even stayed at OBJ's house during the pandemic in 2020.
Oh, wow. So we have these, like, interconnected relationships, these serious accusations, and just a ton of speculation.
Yeah, it's a recipe for, like, internet chaos, for sure.
Big time. And speaking of the internet, what's the online reaction been like?
It's all over the place. Some people believe the accusations, others are making jokes about it.
Typical internet.
Right. And some people are even using Druski's own skits to joke about the situation.
Oh, wow. So like turning his own comedy against him.
Yeah, it's wild. There's even this one tweet that tried to connect a 2022 skit where Druski calls out men who take advantage of women who are intoxicated to these current accusations.
Oh, but that's missing the whole point of the skit.
Exactly. The skit was condemning that behavior.
Yeah, that just shows how easy it is for things to get twisted online.
For real. And this is where the YouTuber brings up this interesting theory. He calls it the smoke screen theory.
Smoke screen theory?
Yeah, basically he thinks these outrageous accusations might be a tactic by Diddy's legal team to create doubt around other accusations.
It's like a distraction.
Kind of, yeah. And it actually aligns with the recent dismissal of the case against Jay-Z. Remember, it involved the same lawyer?
Yeah, I remember.
And Diddy's lawyers said the dismissal was due to a lack of factual basis.
Interesting.
Like maybe there's a pattern of questionable lawsuits here.
Yeah, potentially.
And here's another thing. There was actually a police report filed back in 2018 about this alleged incident, but it was found to be unsubstantiated after investigation.
Great. So that adds another layer of complexity to it all.
Right. It's like a tangled web we're trying to unravel.
Oh, really?
But let's step back for a second and think about the potential consequences of these allegations, especially for Druski.
Yeah, you're right. It could really damage his career, even if they're not true.
Exactly. And his whole brand is built on humor, you know, often pushing boundaries. So this situation really raises the question, how do we reconcile humor with serious accusations like these?
Especially when they involve potential abuse. It's a tough one.
Yeah, and on a bigger level, it makes you worry about actual victims. You know, what if people start dismissing all claims as attention-seeking or made up.
Oh, yeah, that's a huge concern.
What happens then?
It's like a chilling effect on people who might actually need help.
It's a lot to unpack for sure.
It is.
And remember, this is all still unfolding.
Right, we're just scratching the surface.
We'll definitely dive deeper into all this.
Yeah, buckle up.
This is just the beginning.
For sure. It's crazy how this whole thing makes you think about how we process information these days.
Yeah, especially with all the news and opinions flying around on social media.
It's like we're always expected to react instantly and pick a side.
Before we even know all the facts.
Right, exactly. So it's super important to think critically.
To actually take a step back.
Yeah, analyze the sources and consider different perspectives.
And not just jump to conclusions.
Which is so easy to do, let's be honest.
Oh yeah, especially with algorithms and stuff.
Totally. They just feed you more of what you already believe.
It's like a trap.
It is a trap.
And this whole thing with Druski and Diddy just shows how fast a narrative can spread, even if it's not based on solid evidence.
Yeah, and that can have some serious consequences.
Reputations, careers, trust, it's a big deal.
Huge deal. And you brought up that smokescreen theory before.
Right.
If that's even remotely true, what does that say about the legal system?
That it can be manipulated by people with money and power.
Potentially, yeah.
It's almost like a David and Goliath situation, but we don't even know who's who in this whole mess.
Oh, totally. It's like layers upon layers of complexity.
And we can't ignore the current climate, with all the accusations and scrutiny, especially in Hollywood.
The #MeToo movement has definitely changed things.
It's empowered survivors to speak up and demand accountability, which is amazing.
Absolutely. But at the same time, there's also the risk of false accusations being used as weapons.
Whether it's for personal gain or to discredit legitimate claims.
Yeah, it's a tricky situation.
Yeah.
You want justice, but you also have to protect the rights of the accused.
It's like walking a tightrope.
For sure, and this whole Druski-Diddy thing just highlights how complicated it all is.
One thing that really worries me is the impact this could have on actual victims of abuse.
Oh yeah, if people become desensitized to these kinds of stories, it could prevent survivors from coming forward.
It's like the boy who cried wolf.
Exactly. If we don't take every accusation seriously, then the real ones might get lost in the noise.
That's a scary thought.
It is, and it shows why it's so important to be responsible when we're talking about these things.
We can't just believe everything we hear, but we also can't just dismiss everything out of hand.
It needs to be a nuanced approach. Recognizing the seriousness of it all, but also being fair.
And I think the media plays a huge role here.
Totally. We got to report on these stories accurately, responsibly, without sensationalizing them.
We can't just contribute to the online mob mentality.
Right. It's about informing the public, but also respecting the legal process.
And empowering people to think for themselves.
To question what they're seeing and hearing.
And ultimately form their own opinions based on the facts.
That's the goal.
Because this isn't just about Druski and Diddy.
It's bigger than that.
It's about justice and accountability and how power is used.
It's about creating a society where victims feel safe to speak up and where everyone is treated fairly.
You're right. It's about the big picture.
Absolutely. And I think this discussion has given our listener a lot to consider.
For sure.
It's just the beginning, though.
Yeah. There's so much more to unpack as we go deeper into this case. Okay, so, where does this leave us, with all this crazy information?
It's like a reminder that we got to be careful, not just believe everything we see online.
Yeah, we can't be passive about it.
Right. We have to, think for ourselves, question what we're reading and hearing.
Especially with these kind of explosive allegations.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's like a healthy skepticism is important.
Not in a cynical way.
No, not like that.
But digging a little deeper.
Exactly. Look for evidence. Consider different sides of the story.
Because the truth is usually somewhere in the middle, know?
Exactly. Not in the extremes.
Not on the crazy ends of the spectrum.
Right. And that's where the real work comes in, having these tough conversations. Being open to changing your mind.
Yeah, this whole Druski-Diddy thing has been a huge eye-opener.
In what way?
How public opinion and the actual legal process, they don't always match up.
Oh, yeah, totally. And even with how fast information spreads these days, the truth can be hard to find.
It's buried under all this noise and hidden agendas.
Right. It's like we're all detectives trying to solve a mystery.
But with only half the pieces.
Exactly. And we got to be open to the idea that the first suspect might not be the guilty one.
That there might be some plot twists we don't see coming.
100%.
That's a great way to put it, and I think it's a good place to wrap up this deep dive.
Yeah, I think so too.
We've covered, shocking accusations, questionable timelines, so many unanswered questions.
It's a lot to take in.
But hopefully you listening out there, you're thinking about all this with a critical eye.
That's the hope.
Don't settle for easy answers, engage in those tough conversations.
Because these are complex issues.
And this deep dive is just the start, Keep exploring, keep asking questions.
Do your own research.
And we'll be here with more deep dives on other stories that are shaping our world.
Stay curious, my friend.
Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.